Right, so good morning, this is Paul Bedford, Business Growth Specialist, and I'm pleased to have Martin Baines with me today.
Hi, Paul.
And the more awesome sales trainer. Martin, I've been following you on LinkedIn for ages and reading your posts almost daily. And it's great to actually meet you in the flesh and talk face to face. So Martin, I thought we could have a chat today a bit about your journey as a small business owner and the kind of things that you've gone through, how you built your business, how it's going, and what your vision is for the future. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Well,
it took 25 years to become a small business owner because I started off back in, yes, I won't say what year, but 20 odd years ago.
A long time ago.
And I was doing a talk this morning actually about it, and I was thinking, how many jobs have I had? And since 1992 to 2012, when I set up my business, I've had 13 jobs.
Wow, that's
all sales related in some way, shape or form. I was unemployed for 2 years.
Wow, that's tough.
7 of those jobs, believe it or not, didn't last any longer than 12 months.
No, I can believe that actually.
And 5 of them didn't last, 5 of those 7 were less than 6 months. So I have so many jobs in so many sectors and so many industries. There's lots of different reasons behind that, I think. Yeah. From an upbringing point of view and feeling accepted in jobs, but the number of bosses that I've had are just, who've taught me so much about what and how not to do things. Do you know what I mean?
Key point number 1, absolutely. Be a good boss. There's a great little book called The New 1 Minute Manager. Super duper for learning how to be a proper boss.
Yeah. I know, and you look back in hindsight and you're grateful for all those times because now, doing what we do, we can help people because I've fallen down all those manholes and managed to get myself back out. But yeah, it's been a long and arduous journey, and I genuinely wish I'd done what I do now right at the beginning and worked for myself and set up on my own. But I think you have to go through those things.
The irony is you wouldn't have been any good at it when you started because of all the experience. You're at the point. What was it that tripped that switch in 2011-ish? Before you started, what was it that gave you that entrepreneurial surge?
Do you want the honest truth?
Yeah, tell me the honest truth.
I was working as a learning and development consultant for a consultancy who changed their business model. I went into a different role in the business, and 3 months later they made that role redundant.
Oh my goodness.
So I had to say to myself, politely, better get back on your feet in terms of delivering training, delivering management, sales stuff. So I set the business up within a week and I was up and running.
Wow, that's pretty impressive turnaround. So, interest enough, mine, that's exactly why I started my first business, because I got made redundant twice in 1 year.
I've been done 3 times.
Well, it's not a competition, Martin, but you win. Gosh, so competitive.
But not in the same year.
I know, so twice in 1 year. And it's like someone pulling the rug out from underneath your feet, and you're not in control. And I found it just a horrible experience. So I get where you're coming from there.
Yeah, and the second time there was a whole project team that was made redundant, and there were 2 of us doing the same job. And we both went for another job in the same organisation with a different client. And actually, I learned a hell of a lot from that because you can go one of 2 ways, can't you, when you're made redundant? You can be all doom and gloom and the world's going to come to an end, or you can go, this is a real opportunity. That's actually what I did.
Fantastic way of looking at it. Yeah, really good.
And I've talked to any number of people who have actually said, in hindsight, it's the best thing that's ever happened to them.
Yes.
And I don't think, genuinely hand on heart, I would have maybe not have ever considered setting up on my own had this not happened.
The interesting thing is, I found that a lot of business owners, they go through some sort of kaboom moment that really, if they hadn't have gone through that, they wouldn't have had the guts to get out and do it. And it's normally something like the boss is doing this for years and years and years, and they snap, right, that's it, I've had enough, I'm out of here, or they get made redundant, or it's some sort of trigger event.
Yes.
And absolutely, completely agree.
Yeah, And I love what I do. Been up and running now, coming up to 7 years.
That's a good long
time. Has flown, and touch wood, have been pretty flat out all through.
Great.
Which is fantastic.
By flat out, that's a good thing.
Flat out, not flat out, but flat out busy.
Yeah.
Working in, I've done a lot of stuff in the automotive industry, where I've spent almost 20 years.
Right.
Working on car manufacturer, vans, motorbikes, doing their dealer sales training.
Right, okay.
Which is
fantastic.
Great, and which I love. But I've also diversified out into, crikey, I've done wholesale, I've done health and social care, media, county councils. So spreading my wings out there.
Yeah, so you've got a diverse customer base now.
Absolutely.
Did you find that at first you went for the niche market that was your laser focus?
Yes.
And so what I found is that when people, the best thing someone can do if they're good at one particular market when they go self-employed is to concentrate just on that
focus
market.
On that. Absolutely.
Laser sharp focus. Yeah. But what tends to happen is, as a result of being laser sharp focused, other opportunities start coming up.
Yeah.
Whereas the person who tries to go really broad at the beginning ends up with nothing.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I've literally, in the last couple of months, had my website redone.
Okay.
Because I went to an event and met a guy who was delivering a talk about exactly that, niching.
Yes.
Because if you had a look on my old website, sales, leadership, management development, customer handling, coaching, well-being, this and that. Everything and anything. Yeah. Now, yes, we do all of that as a business, but our main focus is sales. Yeah. And that's what I'm known for. Yeah. In LinkedIn and in social selling circles. However, you're right, you do get people who say, oh, by the way, can you do this and can you do that as well?
Of course, if you don't do that, you go, yeah, absolutely, I can do that.
And then you worry about how to do it later.
Then you create it.
Of course we can do that. Do you know what?
We do that.
I did exactly that. I taught myself how to author e-learning.
Wow.
Because this is health and social care, so can you do us an e-learning module on safeguarding? And I went, yeah, of course I can. And then kind of under the surface, I'm going, oh my goodness. And I taught myself how to author e-learning modules.
Isn't that great that you, from an opportunity, you teach yourself a new skill?
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously you get the right experts in if you need them
completely
to help you out.
And I have found that in the first few years, you are the financial controller, you're the chief executive, you're the teas maid, you're the cleaner, you're absolutely everything. Yeah. But over time, once your confidence builds, and I've now got to the point where I have a network of trusted associates.
And that's essential, isn't it?
Can you do this? Can you do that? Yes, I'll bring somebody in now. Yeah. And that grows with networking. That grows from your circle of contacts that you have from corporate anyway. Yeah. But it's a great evolution of a business to then say, yeah, we can do this and we can do that. And it's not me.
Yeah, and also, Martin, what I found with a lot of business owners is that they're spending a lot of time on low skill, low fun stuff, and they're trying to save £10 an hour. Yeah. But when you start building up an income, the business owner spending time on the £10 an hour stuff. No, get a virtual assistant in to help you out and outsource those things, so that you can build the business and work on it, rather than doing all the little stuff.
Yeah. And you know, I posted a few weeks ago, are you working in your business or on your business? Yeah. And I speak to lots of people who say, oh, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. And actually, can you afford not to?
Exactly.
Because that will absolutely focus your mind. If you have got, for example, and I haven't, but if you have got a VA, that will focus your mind on, actually, I've got that outgoing to pay for your VA, and you have to get something in, you know, pennies in the pot to pay for that. But yeah, it's working on your business more than in your business. Yeah.
So sorry, I digressed a little bit.
Yeah, it's okay.
But the valuable lessons things are. So you got what, 18,000, 20,000 LinkedIn connections of you?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That's a substantial audience. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm a little bit behind you. I only have 12,000 LinkedIn connections. But I'm working on it. How long does it take you to build that up?
It must have been, crikey, let's have a think now. We're going back probably 10 years.
Yeah.
Although in the last certainly 2018, I have been very, very focused on who I connect with.
Yes.
In terms of my target audience and who I engage with and what I post. Because you're right, I post pretty much on a daily basis. But for me, it's about adding value.
That is really important as well. Being seen, isn't it, on LinkedIn?
Completely.
I don't get people who, you know, I do get it. People who post sporadically every now and again. Unfortunately, with pretty much all social media, the number one rule is be consistent and get stuff out there.
Yeah.
You know what? And yes, I, like yourself, I try and give as much value as I possibly can. So your post, if you're not connected to Martin, by the way, on LinkedIn, get on with it, because he posts some really valuable stuff every single day. And you know what? It would be tempting to repeat the same stuff, but you don't, which is great.
Yeah, and sometimes lots of people say, well, I don't know what to put on LinkedIn, I don't know what to put on Facebook or wherever it is. And if you're having conversations with somebody and they like what you're saying, then maybe post that, because if you like it, maybe other people will like it as well. And I actually have stuff pop into my head throughout the course of the day that I think, oh, that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And rather than sit there in the morning and go, what am I going to write today? I'll sad, I need to get out more. I'll text myself, and I text myself. I always get a reply.
You never ignored.
Never ignored.
That's good.
But I'll put some copy and some content onto, and then all you need to do in the morning is copy and paste it, and bang, your post is done for the day. But it's not just about posting. It's about getting involved in the conversation. Yes. Referring people. I was just talking to you earlier about literally as I was waiting here to meet you. Does anybody in my network know somebody here? And I did, and I introduced them. And you know, it's putting people together. That's the true value from networking. I don't get anything out of it. No. But I put it on my post. It smooths the way.
But people respect you, and they then will start coming to you.
Yes, they said thank you. Of course they did. But it smooths the wheels of business.
It does.
And it helps people. And if you give it first, then hopefully at some point your name will become one that people are referring. Yeah. But it has to be consistent, and you're absolutely right with that.
Yeah. So one of the things that so you do sales training.
Yes.
And a lot of your posts are about how to, you know, the best things to do with sales training, which is fantastic. And one thing that I wish I'd have done earlier with LinkedIn is being a bit more focused on who I connect with. Okay. I just connect with anybody. Yes. Sorry, if you're on LinkedIn...
That's not you.
I want you to be part of my network. Or our network, not my network, our network. Sorry, yeah. So your story, digressing again. So we were talking about you started your business, it was because you pretty much were made redundant and you took that leap.
Yes.
What were some of the massive lessons you learned early on in your business?
Good question. Turnover.
Turnover.
Yeah, you have to keep the revenue coming in.
Yes.
Be nice to them. Well, I've learnt this throughout life. Be nice to them on the way up, because you might need them on the way down.
Have you found that business sometimes goes up and down?
Oh, absolutely.
It does.
And for the first few years, I lived off what I call associate work. So the client will have a training provider.
Yes.
The training provider will have a team, and they may have freelance associate people. So I lived off that. Yeah. And sometimes it can be feast or famine. Yeah. Can you do this date? Can you do that date? No, I can't, because I've got work already booked, and once it's booked, and you don't go back on it, of course. No. And then there's nothing.
It's the seesaw effect, isn't it?
Yeah, or there's 3 different consultancies asking you if you're available and interested, and they're all pitching for the same bit of business.
No, come on,
get different
please.
Clients.
So that's another good point, is that a lot of business owners, they do the seesaw game. Yeah. It's where they're looking for work, and then they get work, they stop looking, yeah. and it's like that.
But what I would say is, don't stop, and I say it in terms of prospecting, it has to be continual.
Always pipeline, always
pipeline.
filled.
And when you're busy, that's the best time to do it.
That's the essential time, because as soon as you get unbusy, you've got nothing coming through.
And then,
you haven't done that.
Subconsciously, potentially, you're thinking, oh my God, I need work. And then it becomes more of a desperate plea.
Yeah.
And people can see through that.
Yes, they can, can't they? I remember times where I felt desperate, and it's obviously come across.
Yeah, please buy.
And of course, please buy from me. My kids are hungry.
But try that one.
You should try that one. Yeah. I actually had a friend of mine who, on his website, he actually put that kind of thing up. There's a picture of him with his little kid crying.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, that's a bit harsh. I didn't buy from him.
No.
so yeah, turnover.
Yeah,
that's a biggie.
Yes.
What else has been one of your kind of the biggest things that you found a challenge? You think?
Well, it is that roller coaster ride.
Keep the sales process going.
Feast and famine. And for me, I'm looking as a business owner now to diversify out. Yes, I still do the associate work, but I have direct clients.
Yeah, that's where the true income is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, I found a little bit more hassle and grief.
Potentially, yes.
It depends on who you got as your
client. And I understand the operational side of things as a business, that you have to be on board with the client. But do you know what? There's nothing wrong with pushing back and challenging. Yeah. Certainly from a learning and development point of view, in my experience, there are people out there who are in learning and development that don't actually have a learning and development background.
No.
And as experts, and use the words carefully, it's beholden on us to say, hang on a minute, this may work better if we do it this way, if we do it that way. Yeah. So managing stakeholders, because they want this in, they want that in, or this message has to change here, or you can't say this, you can't say that, and it's balancing all of that and getting a solution that actually for the end user, whoever it may be, adds value and makes a difference.
And communicating in the way that people need to be communicated with. Yeah. And I completely agree with you there. Managing the stakeholders, setting expectations. I think I found that a lot of stakeholders, if you're actually upfront with them and you tell them what you can do and what you can't do. Yeah. Remember, I'm from an IT background.
Yes.
And what some people want from IT systems is ridiculous. So just saying, look, that's a great idea. Yeah. But there's no way we can do that in the time that you want. But we can do this and this. And I've found that if you talk to people and communicate with them, but what I've also seen, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, if people go, oh yes sir, yes I will do that, and there's no way they can do it.
Absolutely. And actually what happens in the end, you eat into your profit.
Of course you do.
Because we'll do that, we'll do this, we'll amend this, we'll change that, we'll do that, and then it starts to, and actually that then becomes the expectation of a client or a customer. So next time, the expectation levels are higher. But they still want the same. They do same rate. Yeah, or less, in fact.
It is normally less.
It's normally less. Yeah,
that's great.
So it's about being resilient, I think, and actually having the courage of your convictions to say, okay, no.
So saying no. That's hard to do.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, especially if they're a high-paying client.
Well, at the start of my journey, you say yes to everything. Because it's about turnover, it's about getting revenue, and after a while, and it must have been, I'm thinking back now on, thinking on my feet, 4 years in, madness, the stuff that I was doing in terms of great work, loved it to bits, but literally, I was doing a lot of stuff in the Middle East for one client. Yeah. But coming back to a hotel room and getting the laptop open and working 2 or 3 hours for another client. Yeah. Not getting enough sleep, going to airports and different time zones, airports writing up reports and stuff like this. And, towards the end of the year, you're just like almost at the point of burnout. Yeah. And when it's just you, you've got to look after you as well.
That's a really valuable point. I found, and I'm sure you have as well, that small business owners, for the first 2 years, they're quite happy doing 70 hours or more a week.
Yes.
But after 2 years, you can't, some people can, it grinds you and it erodes you as a person.
Yeah,
and
so
that comes across.
Really and a lot of the stuff that we talk with clients about is sales behaviours and communication and body language. That will come across. Yes, however absolutely. Much you try and have this on stage presence, people will see through that in terms of your body language, the way you communicate, and the way you are.
So here's an interesting thing. So you obviously offer coaching as well, which is fantastic. I found that sales training on its own is great, but if you follow it up with a sales coach like yourself to keep people accountable for implementing the stuff that you've done,
yes,
that's the best model, isn't it?
Completely.
Yeah.
And now, please don't hold it against me. Please do not decide not to connect with me when I say I used to sell cars.
Oh gosh,
Okay.
I didn't know that, Martin.
Yeah.
I'd have known that.
They were
we
nice
wouldn't be having
cars.
this interview.
They were nice cars. And I genuinely, and I don't say it just because it's what I do now, I genuinely used to love going on training courses. And I used to pick up lots of tips, lots of ideas, lots of best practice, which is kind of how I now facilitate learning rather than tell. But what used to happen, and it wasn't quite as drastic as going back to work and my manager saying, I didn't realise you'd been away, sorry. But it was almost like that. And then, oh, don't worry about that, just go and sell some cars. And within a week, it's all gone. There's no support. And it used to really, really frustrate me. And I'll tell you a story, if I may. Crikey, it must have been 8-9 years ago. I ran a course up in Scotland. It was an after sales course. So for service advisors, 2 days of service call process. And there were flip charts and discussions all over. And at the end, as I always do, what are you going to do differently as a result of being here for the last 2 days? And one lady said, I'm going to leave.
Okay.
And I thought for a second, oh my goodness, how do I respond to this? and I said, okay, well, what do you mean by that? And bless her, she said, I love all of this stuff, but I know when I go back, I am not going to be allowed to do any of it. So do you know what? I've made a conscious decision right here to look for a new job. And in hindsight, I've taken that as a positive.
It is.
Now, I'm not encouraging people to do that.
Don't leave.
Don't leave.
Just because you've been on a course.
But in terms of management, and you said it exactly, it's about having management support and integration to transfer that learning into the workplace and make a difference.
What I think is ridiculous is they'll pay a couple of grand.
Completely.
Yeah, to put someone on a course.
Exactly.
And then
do nothing.
Nothing. No support, no help, implementation. And I guess that's where you can come in and help them out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Okay.
And I love it.
Yeah. So what I found with a lot of businesses is when things start to pick up, they're going really well. There's always a kind of an oops moment where something poof almost hits you around the back of the head. And sometimes it's your biggest client leaving you, or it's a wake up moment when things are going great. There's this, because sometimes we take our eye off the ball and we don't concentrate on the little things. Then that happens, and sometimes it's our fault, sometimes it's market forces. Have you had anything like that happen to you?
Yeah, a couple of times. A couple of years ago, I was, well, let's put it this way, my contract was with the legal department of a PLC global player to do 6 months worth of sales training, management inductions. I had a team of 10 associates lined up. All the dates were in the diary, all ready to go. Press the button.
So that sounds like it might be simple. That's a lot of work to put all that together, isn't it? How long did it take to put all that together?
Oh, a couple of months.
Yeah, at least.
And to get availability of good trainers is difficult because good trainers
they're always booked. Yeah. It's like, and also trainers are very kind of individual people.
Yes,
I've found it's like trying to herd cats.
Yes.
You're trying to get all these cats. Cats do not go in the same direction, do they? Hey, come on. If it was like sheep, it'd be brilliant. They're all strong-minded individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. An ego of trainers is the collective group. Did you know that?
Yeah.
That's a joke, by the way.
An ego of
anyway,
trainers.
this contract was with the legal department, and we were all ready to go. My diary had been cleared because I was project managing it, and I was doing some of the delivery, and I was liaising with the client. The head of learning and development left the business.
Is that who you had the relationship?
That's who everything was going through. Yeah. The director of HR left, and within a week, everything had gone.
Wow.
Nothing.
That's mad. And how much was that worth?
That was 150 grand's worth of business in 6 months.
Ooh, okay. Sizable chunk.
Sizable chunk, yeah, absolutely. And a big, with the option of let's roll this out over the next 3 years. Boom.
Yes.
Now what?
Because I would imagine what you probably did is, because you concentrate so hard on that, your sales pipeline wasn't stacked.
Absolutely.
Classic thing that we all do, every one of us.
Yes.
And so what did you do? Because it would be easy to get a bit depressed.
Yes.
And to think, oh, woe is me, this is terrible, what do I do?
Well,
what did you do?
Well,
did you hit the...
No,
so please tell me you
didn't
didn't
hit
go
the
and...
bottom. I didn't hit the bottom.
Wild nights out, just like train wreck.
Yeah, no, I didn't do that.
Good.
And I talk about this actually quite a lot now in events.
You do like Forend,
yeah, I do a lot of Forend
Great network.
and foresights and stuff like that. And there's all sorts of stuff that happens to us on a day-to-day basis. And I use examples of you're driving down the motorway and there's somebody sat in the middle lane when the inside lane is perfectly clear.
Mm-hmm.
That frustrates us.
It does.
Or if somebody, heaven forbid, doesn't indicate at the roundabout, or if you hold a door open for somebody and they don't say thank you.
Yeah.
You know, all of these things are outside of our circle of influence. We can't do anything about it. I couldn't do anything about those big stakeholders in that business leaving. What you can absolutely do is choose how you respond.
Yes.
And I've had some pretty big life-changing stuff happen this year to me, and which I won't mention now, but 5 minutes sat there.
Maybe do another video.
Yeah, 5 minutes it took me to sit and reflect and go, do you know what? I'm not going to allow that to destroy my life.
No.
Because it was that big. It could have done.
Yeah.
I'm actually choosing to let this define me.
Yes. And
actually, if I can make that choice, then anybody can. And you'll know that the quote, the Stephen Covey quote, 10% of life is what happens to us, 90% of life is how we respond to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we live our life on autopilot, learned behaviours, the way we were brought up, we just go and go and go with that. And the emotional part of our brain will kick in straight away.
Have you read The Chimp Paradox?
Yes.
Fantastic book, Chimp Paradox.
Yes.
Just brilliant.
Dr. Steve Peters,
I've got a signed copy.
Have you?
Yeah, from him himself.
Fantastic. Yeah. Signed by
And
you.
it's real as well. You can see the indents. It's not just a printed one. It's great. Sorry.
That theory is absolutely right, because that's the fight, flight, freeze mechanism.
Yes.
But if you stop, think, consider, choose, it can, trust me, be transformational in life and in business as well, by the way. And we can talk about sales and prospecting, people saying no, that can get you down. It's a tough gig.
Yeah, absolutely.
But actually it's choosing how you respond to it.
And interesting enough, you know, you said like it can, so in your personal life and in your business life, what I found is actually really there's just your personal life and your running your business.
Yes.
Because business does get personal, doesn't it? And it is personal. And so if you've got it's very difficult to segregate the two, although they do need to be separated at times.
Yes.
But So you had that oops moment, and you decided to learn and grow from that, which is fabulous. We're talking about obviously the 150k with the global thing. And are there any other lessons that you've learned that you could pass on to small business owners that will help them out, do you think?
Keep
There's probably hundreds of lessons. But
you know, from that episode, going back to that, I now have a fantastic template for tender responses.
Because you've done all the work.
Because I've done all the work of that, and it's not. That takes time.
It does.
And actually, that was something that they were highly complimentary of, the way that was put together and packaged and presented.
Good.
Top tips, crikey, you are your brand. You are the business. And I say to lots of people, I don't work in sales, I'm just the accountant. Well, actually, do you know what? You are in sales, because you're selling yourself all of the time. Whether you recognise it or not. At a networking meeting, people are judging you, be that right or be that wrong. You're selling yourself, you're selling your products and services, you're selling your business, and you're selling your brand all of the time. And it's about being conscious of that and how you're coming across to others. Because if I make and we all say, no, we don't prejudge, but we do.
We do. 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't like the look of that person. What we will do as human beings is try and justify that initial thought as often as we can to reinforce it. So I say, how do you want to come across to others? How are you actually coming across to others? And if those two are different in terms of your personal brand, how you communicate your behaviours, maybe there's some work to be done on that, because we are all wired differently. We all send and receive information differently. You've got your analytical thinkers and you've got your people who are wired like Tigger. And when you put those two opposites, you might be the Tigger. You have to adapt your style.
You do. Because if you go all Tigger on someone who's a spreadsheet person,
they're like, whoa,
in your face. Yeah.
But you will have the outgoing person going, yeah, come on, liven up.
Yeah.
But you've got to be adaptable and flexible and recognise these things. And people go, well, that's not selling. Absolutely, it's selling.
As a small business owner, you're a salesperson.
Absolutely.
And you know what? One of the things that I do when I talk to business owners is I say, write down the 5 things you associate with a salesperson. And they go, sleazy, pushy. And they go, you know you're a salesperson, don't you? Yeah. And their idea of a salesperson, unfortunately, if that's their preconceived idea of a salesperson, that's actually how, I think, well, how do you think other people see you?
Yes.
Based on one of those 5 things.
Yeah. But really if that is the preconceived idea, and I think there is a lot of that, and I'm doing some work at the minute where we have exactly that exercise. It's quite funny you said that, because we haven't lined that up, by the way.
No, that's coincidental. We're just cyclically melded, aren't we?
Yeah. Previous experiences may have led us to have those perceptions.
And that's usually the case, isn't it?
Does anybody
Anybody in the room have an experience of a pushy salesperson?
Nobody wants free gas or electricity at 8 o'clock at night, do they? Because we're watching television and the phone rings and it's like, just leave me alone. Mm-hmm. People pouncing out in the shopping centre trying to flog you this and flog you that. And actually, maybe that's the fear that some people have. I don't want to come across as being too salesy. Yeah. And they withdraw completely. Mm-hmm. But actually, one of the things I say all the time is if I'm considering a product or service and I'm talking to you, do you know what? I'm going to be talking to supplier A and B and you. Yes. So what are you going to do to differentiate yourself in the way you help me buy rather than selling to me? Yes. Because when we add value and we identify pain points and we have a solution for those pain points, and you make it easy for me to say yes, do you know what? It's not rose-tinted spectacles, but some people may be prepared to pay more. We'll have all bought stuff and paid more for it, won't we? Because I like them, and I see value for money.
Seriously, it is. It's about that. I've actually had experiences where I like someone and I've bought. Yeah. There were other people could have gone to.
Could have got it cheaper down the road, but I like
you know what? Because you like them, you don't mind paying extra.
Exactly, because you know that they've looked after you, and you know that you've built that trust. And actually, there's half a chance that you'll come back and buy from them again. Yeah, especially if they follow the process to help you buy more often. Yes, that's true. So, from a sales training perspective, Martin, what would you say makes you? We're talking about differentiators. What makes you different to some of the other sales people, sales trainers out there? What do you do that? Well, believe it or not, it took me a week to come up with the name of my business. Okay. Which is Martin Baines Learning Solutions. And you think, how did that take a week? And the one thing I was adamant I did not want it to be called was training. Even though that's what people will search for, and we talk sales training. Yes. Because in my mind, training is, this is what you need to do. You do this, you do this, you do that. Which is fine with product and technical stuff and stuff that's right and wrong. But actually, I'm a big believer in facilitating learning. So we have a room full of 10, 12 people, and actually, the discussions in the room lead people to their own learning. And that's a whole lot more powerful. And I'm actually really very, very happy to challenge people and their learned behaviours. I'm happy to be challenged as well.
I think anybody who thinks they know it all...
Well, they're going to switch people off straight away.
Of course, yeah. That's really good. So you do a lot of participation exercises, deliberately designed to draw out the learning, and then you obviously would reinforce that learning with.
But it's about relating it to what's going on in your business. That's great. How can you take that back to your business?
Yeah, and implement that.
Right now.
So you're almost giving them actionable plans to go away with. Is that?
Yes, completely. But one of the frustrating things, as you've said, is then when they leave,
there's no support.
What happens?
Yeah.
So the ideal is to identify what training need there is in advance, put together a tailored program, be it one-to-one or in a group or in a team, deliver that, action, follow up, coach, embed.
Yeah, that's a good process.
Behavioural change.
Yeah.
And any number of businesses that will oh my goodness, we need sales, get somebody in. And they'll get somebody in who's exactly like the person who's left and wonder why 3-4 months later they're doing the process again. Because it's knee-jerk reaction. And it has to be long-term stuff in terms of pipeline, which we've talked about, identifying the audience, communicating with that target audience, maintaining the contact strategy, and delivering the right message.
Fantastic. That's really great. Martin, it's been amazing to talk to you today.
Thank you.
And I've been a big fan of Martin's for a long time, reading his LinkedIn posts every single day for about 11 months now.
Something like that. Yeah.
It took us this long to get together.
I am still busy as well, by the way.
I'm still busy as well. Anything you want to say just before we close this session?
Just to say thank you for the opportunity. It's great to share some airtime, and if there's stuff that people want some tips and advice on, then absolutely,